Let's get some analysis on the Canadian results. Stephen Conroy and Michael Kroger are with me. It's election season. Stephen, let's go to you first of all. The Trump effect looks like it's been quite dramatic in Canada. Mark Carney, the Liberal leader and Prime Minister, returned. Trudeau stepped down a few months ago. Carney, the central bank governor, triumphant this evening.
Yeah, look, I mean, I was fascinated by that analysis from your last interview where he talked about the Liberal Party were nowhere on housing, the Liberal Party were nowhere on cost of living. You know, the same issues that have been central to the debate for the last 2.5 years. The issues Michael would have said, these are the reasons you should not elect Albo for a second term. And that Trump effect has driven a huge surge towards the Liberals, and they've clearly won. I think the Donald Trump effect in Australia, if you look at when the polls began to decline and really began to decline, as Trump starts issuing, the 100-odd proclamations that he made, plus the interview with Zelensky, plus the tariff war, and you've just seen the effect go like this on Peter Dutton and the Liberals, because despite best efforts, they'd spent quite a few months celebrating the election from November and saying they could deal with Donald Trump better. They were fraternal colleagues, so to speak, on the right of politics. So I think the Trump effect has really hit Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party harder, because nothing else explains the decline from February. Work from home was only a very quick blip, at the end of March, April. Came and went very quickly. So that Trump effect, I think, overhangs like a dark cloud for Peter Dutton and the Liberals.
It was an interesting analysis, Stephen, that you're giving, is similar to what Greg Sheridan told me earlier. And then you look at the numbers that we're seeing. I know the polling has just closed in parts of Canada, but the early indications from the numbers we're seeing, Michael, is that this is the Liberal Party's outperformed significantly its performance in 2021 under Mark Carney and in the face of Trump.
Well, that's exactly right. Trump's been a disaster for the Conservatives in Canada, referring to the Prime Minister there as the 51st governor, saying he wants to merge with Canada, the trade war with Canada. This has all been childish and absurd. And the Canadians, like any self-respecting independent nation, doesn't like to be treated with derision. And they have been, and they've revolted against it. The Conservative leader, who was 20 points in front in the polls just 3 months ago, has been defeated. So it's essentially a revolt by the Canadian people against Trump's treating them with second-class citizens, and that's what's happened. As Greg Sheridan said, it's the first election that Trump has lost. Look, he's on the right track on many issues: border protection, on stopping these extremists, anti-Jewish hatred on university campuses, etc. But on other issues, he's behaving appallingly. I mean, Zelensky, that's just appalling what he's doing there. The trade war is out of control, sidling up much too close to Putin, saying he's going to take over Gaza, etc., etc. Greenland, Mexico, all of these things he's doing are things the American president should not be doing. So for whatever good he's done, he's certainly doing a lot of damage around the place, and that's been reflected in the Canadian election today, mate.
And we've got a few days till our election, Stephen. I should mention to our viewers, we will go back to Ottawa and we'll hear from Mark Carney, triumphant, former, as I say, central bank governor, not just in Canada, but the UK as well. And we'll go to him when he speaks with that victory speech. But Stephen, when you touch on the sort of implications for our election, where are things at? I'm not going to say call the election now, but how do you read things at the moment? And one thing I would say to you is that in Fowler, one seat, I know it's only one seat, but it's fresh mail that I received yesterday, is that it's 50-50 there now. 3 months ago, Labor's polling had it at 58-42. It's back to 50-50, so a toss-up in Fowler for Tully and Daly.
Yeah, no, well, it's very similar in Melbourne. If you'd have, remember our conversations, 2 months ago, not even 3 months ago, there were probably 8 seats in Victoria that were under live threat. Today, it's probably between 1 and 4, with a chance. We're pumping resources into a Menzies and into a Deakin to try and take those 2 seats, which are the only 2 seats in the broader metropolitan area of Melbourne that the Liberals actually hold. So that swing back to us that you've mentioned in Fowler, you can see in all the published polls in Victoria as well. And Victoria was the big state that Dutton was counting on to deliver because of the Jacinta Allen and the Victorian state Labor government, which is, got all sorts of troubles. So I think that mail out of Fowler is right. If you look at what's happened in Victoria, it's right. So Dutton is really struggling to get traction to win, the even 15 seats that he was hoping to win to get to, a 70 or a 71. So I think it's very hard. I know the standard discussion, and I've given it in the last few days, there's all these undecided voters, there's all these soft voters, and none of them have ever transpired to help a Labor opposition that's been, behind in the polls suddenly take government. And I've had that conversation many times, too many times in the past.
Michael, yes, we know from recent history, in fact, you look at 2019, where expectations were one way, the result was different. So I think people are cautious, as Stephen says, because of that uncertain cohort, the soft voter, but also recent history with that election of 2019.
Mm-hmm. So look, in this election like 19, there's an undercurrent. In the 19 election, even though Shorten was ahead of the polls, and when we got to the desk on election night, we all expected Shorten to win, there was a large undercurrent against him, which didn't play out in the polls, and that was an undercurrent of people who were horrified by these tax increases. There is an undercurrent in this election too, and the undercurrent is that most people don't think Albanese's done enough to be re-elected. So large amounts of people voting early is obviously always a bad sign for a government. Let's hope that's right. And there is an undercurrent of people thinking, well, things haven't gone well under an Albanese. Interest rate rises, the cost of living crisis, overblown immigration levels, the worst, breakdown in social cohesion we've seen in our history, increasing crime rates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people have a pretty negative view of the Albanese government, and for the coalition, it's just got to hope that those people quietly vote in the polling booth to say we don't want the next 3 years to be like the last 3. If that happens, then they've got a chance of winning.
Michael Kroger, Stephen Conroy, gents, I look forward to seeing you on the weekend when we will know all. Appreciate it.